We are so pleased to welcome back to set today Tom O'Brien, who's the Plymouth County Treasurer, for our segment that we call Treasury Notes with Tom O'Brien.
How clever is that?
How clever. Welcome back, Tom O'Brien.
It's a pleasure to be here, Julie.
Town meetings and elections are going on right about now, so I think something that's really appropriate that you know so much about is OPEB, which is Other Post-Employment Benefits, which are available to or assigned to municipal employees, federal employees, etc. What are they? Why do we need to know about them, and how do they affect the budgets of the towns?
Okay, so that's a lot. That's a lot. First of all, remind people, get out and vote in your town elections.
Yes.
I was talking to somebody and found out that in the town of Marshfield, I think they had about 7% turnout at the last election. So we really want to encourage people, if there's a town election, get out and vote. It's important. Attend your town meeting.
Yeah.
I know sometimes they're not the most exciting venues, but it's really important. And one of the important things you'll be talking about, do you like that segue?
Yeah.
Is other post-employment benefits. And it's funny, I noticed you even wrote it down because I have to deal with it every day, so of course it's something I know, but people residents in town, they deal with it once a year at their annual town meeting, and they're like, what is this thing, OPEB? Some of them mispronounce it as OPED and other things, but the easiest way to think about it is that it is health insurance for municipal employees.
Okay.
That's what it is.
After they retire?
After they, yes. However, you also have to cover the cost of their health insurance now, and so that's incorporated into the entire segment of health insurance.
Okay.
So other post-employment benefits stands for anything other than pension, which is health insurance and life insurance that they get upon their retirement. So here's the challenge. A number of years ago, the federal government came out, and state governments, and said cities and towns need to fund this obligation.
Correct.
Because at some point, your employees are going to retire.
Right.
They're going to be needing this health insurance that they've contributed into, and we need to find a way to fund and pay for it.
Right.
And so they created the Government Accounting Standards Bureau that determines what that liability is, and then cities and towns have to figure out a way to fund it.
Okay, and you have to base this on how long you think people are going to live, right? So there's actuarial tables involved in this also?
There are lots of actuarial tables, more than most people can stand, and they will put you to sleep.
Yes, they're frightening.
and really, it's interesting when you think about it, they're actuarial tables based on mortality.
Right.
So some of them are referred to as mortality tables.
Sure.
But that's what it is. How long is the average person going to live?
We have to fund this for as long as you live, so therefore we need to fund it appropriately.
As long as you're likely to live.
Correct.
So here's the challenge. This is something relatively new.
Yeah.
It came about probably about 15, 20 years ago. Most cities and towns did what they were supposed to do, which was identify the liability, and then they said, oh, that's a big number.
Yeah.
And most communities sat there and said, we're just going to wait and see what comes next. Well, what came next was another Government Accounting Standards Bureau rule or regulation, GASB 74 and 75, which says, okay, now that you've identified it, you have to start funding it.
Okay. So this is a requirement. This isn't optional. You have to do this.
Well, the good news is, as the government sometimes does with a carrot and stick approach, is they said you should fund it. You're not required to fund it, but here's the leverage that they have. Once it was originally identified as a liability, in the financial statements of the town, which are very important because your bond rating is based off of that. Up until recently, it was a footnote in your financial statements. All it did was say, okay, we've identified this liability as X number of tens of millions of dollars. It's there. We know it. We're not going to worry about it. It's footnote 7.
We're not going to put a line item in for this.
However, the GASB 74 and 75 said you have to put it above the line into the financials. And it has to hit against your net assets. And so cities and towns all of a sudden are saying, oh my God, this is a big number. It's going to throw us into a negative balance, which we don't like and which we're afraid will impact our bond rating.
So what do towns and cities do?
So here's the good news. Bond rating companies, Standard & Poor's, Moody's, and Fitch.
And this is when you're going to borrow money as a town, the better your bond rating, the better interest rate you get.
Absolutely correct.
Okay.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Go.
So the bond rating agencies understand this is happening.
Yep.
They understand cities and towns can't come up with tens of millions of dollars all at once.
Right.
All they're looking to see is that cities and towns are beginning to dedicate certain revenue streams to this liability and putting it aside every year.
Good faith. Yep.
That they're beginning to set aside monies to cover this cost, which they know is going to be down in the coming in the future. So it's a good approach, I think, by the government.
Yep.
They said, here it is. You're going to have to count it as a liability. You need to plan for it and start funding for it. So what you're seeing at town meeting and what you're seeing each community begin to do is decide where they're going to take money from to begin to fund this liability. Some of them are taking it out of free cash as that's available. Some of them are dedicating a hotel or meals tax to this. And so
options.
as long as they're planning and planning appropriately, they should be in good shape. So it's not anything they should panic about, but they should be doing.
But so that just makes it more understandable too, that because it is a big line item, I know, on our budget in Pembroke, and it's good to understand why it's there and what it's there for. So OPEB, and that will go on and on and on, and I'm sure we'll get updates on that from you in the future.
I hope so.
Dollar cost averaging, can you just talk about the people that are in the market right now? People, you get nervous. Do I want to have my money in the stock market? Do I not? I don't know what's going to happen. I've heard of dollar cost averaging. What is it? How do you define that?
Yeah, so we've been in a very volatile market, right? Go back to January, it's been up and down, up and down, up and down. So as you're thinking about investing, whether you're doing that on your own or with a financial advisor, you might identify an investment that you like, a particular equity or a particular stock that you find interesting. Could be a company that you're familiar with, something we know, something that's all American, whatever floats your boat, so to speak, and you think it's a good investment. Rather than just pick one time to put all your money into that stock. The concept of dollar cost averaging is to say, pick a time period and invest in that stock over a period of time. The benefit of that is it helps smooth out the vagaries of the marketplace, because invariably there's an old saying in the financial industry, if you don't do things like dollar cost averaging, you're guaranteed to buy high and sell low. And we don't want to do that.
And that always seems to happen, right?
Always seems to happen.
Right.
So
pick a stock that you really like, the XYZ company that you have a lot of faith in, say, I'm going to invest in this for 2 years. I'm going to do it every 3 months, whatever it is, but do it consistently and stay with it.
That's correct.
And the average will win out in your favor, hopefully, in the end.
And that's the sense of dollar. That's the goal. That's the objective. That's the thought.
Okay,
yes.
Perfect.
And it does work over time.
Okay. And in our last minute, you read a book called Dollars and Cents, SENSE.
Yes.
What did you like so much about this book?
So it's a great book. It's recently out. It was published in November of 2017. It's written by Dan Ariely and Jeff Chrysler. Dan Ariely is a financial economist, and Jeff Chrysler is a comedian, a financial comedian.
And money's funny. We all know that.
And I love the subtitle of the book is How We Misthink Money and How to Spend Smarter. So a lot of people write books about how to save money, but this is how to spend smarter. It was a funny book. It talks about some of our human foibles, and really was an interesting look at what we think about money. I'll give you a quick example. One, if you win a wager with a friend or something, that's found money to you, isn't it? Right?
Absolutely.
So you're more likely to spend that on something extravagant that you wouldn't normally spend it on.
Why not?
But as they point out in the book, that's $10. That $10 is no different than $10 you work hard earning every day. So you better think about that, not as something to maybe spend extravagantly, but to put in the pool and spend as you normally would $10 that you worked hard to earn.
Good advice. Dollars and cents. And you'll always get dollars and cents from you. Tom O'Brien, Treasury Notes. Thank you. We'll have you back again.
Great. I always
Thanks
look forward
for the
to it.
information.